Today, Wednesday, August 5th, is not only the day in Honolulu or in the state of Hawaii where we have the most increase in corona infections, it's also the day where the Hawaii Department of Transportation Airports Division announced the installation of thermal temperature screening equipment at airports in Honolulu, in Kahului, in Lihue, in Kona, and also in Hilo to screen passengers that are arriving on international flights or flights from the US mainland to be checked discreetly and efficiently. The first flight we're witnessing is a United Airlines flight arriving in Honolulu from San Francisco, and explained today was the procedure by a spokesperson of the Hawaii Department of Transportation and officials of the NEC Corporation. NEC Corporation told us that this was the first time they put such equipment in a U.S. airport facility. Listen to the press conference.
With the Hawaii Department of Transportation, and the state is very proud today to be able to show a demonstration of how this new thermal temperature screening equipment works here, not only at the Daniel K. International Airport, but at the 5 main airports that do currently accept the Trans-Pacific arriving flights. And this equipment is in use now. We're proud to say that NEC and the NEC team is on schedule and on budget, which we're always very proud. The equipment in phase 1 was completed with the installation on Friday, and the equipment was installed and implemented into action over the weekend. It has been going very well, and it is just another tool that the state has implemented to try to help protect the community against COVID-19 by trying to detect any of those passengers who may have a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher. In those situations, what will happen is that passenger person will be pulled aside for an additional evaluation. They will be confirmed if in fact they do have that elevated temperature, and then additional precautions will be taken in addition to having the option of having a COVID-19 test and nasal swab taken here at the airport and then transported to the Department of Health for testing. Joining me today, I would like to introduce a few of the people that are working on this. Jason Van Sice is the Vice President of the NEC Corporation of America. I'll introduce him in just a moment. He'll be able to offer a few words and take questions afterwards. In addition, Bill Carlton is here. He's also the Senior Project Manager for the NEC Corporation of America and has been at the forefront making sure that this project does get delivered on time and on budget. And he's going to be the one who's actually doing the demonstration for all of you to take you through exactly how it works and what that process is. Also, Eddie Ontai is here with Data House. He's the president of Data House. He is one of the partners that is working with NEC on this project. And I'm very pleased to say, and I'm sure NEC will reiterate, but 90% of the workforce that is working on this project and the installation and the project as a whole is utilizing the talents of those local people and local residents right here. So 90% of the people working on this project are from Hawaii. So it's employing and helping the economy here for the local residents and the local states and government. All right, with that being said, I would like to introduce Jason Van Sice, again, the Vice President of NEC of America.
Thanks, Tim. As mentioned, I think you took a lot of the words I would probably say, but something we're really proud of is we're keeping 90% of this contract here in the state of Hawaii. So that was a really important piece of that, and we have some of our key partners here, as mentioned also. But really, it's rare that we have such an important mission that we're a part of, right? With this pandemic, and particularly with the state of Hawaii. The mission of assisting through automation, the capture of temperature, and potentially identifying people, or not identifying, but locating a person based on a high temperature, so that at that point decisions can be made down the road about if in fact they do have a temperature, to protect not only the airport workers but the public as well. So we're thrilled to be a part of it, and we certainly look forward to a long partnership with the state of Hawaii to bring this automation and ultimately make a safer environment and bring tourism and travel back to the state of Hawaii in an effective manner. So I don't know if we want to go to any questions or
We'll let Eddie
do that.
yeah.
Sure.
And again, just again to reintroduce, Eddie Ontai is the president of Data House, one of the local companies that is working in conjunction with NEC on this project here. Eddie?
Hi, Data House is just thrilled and just very privileged to be a part of this wonderful team. NEC has been a great partner, not just for Data House, but for the state of Hawaii. As Steve had mentioned, they really embrace the needs of the state, not just from a technology standpoint of being able to provide some health screening for our visitors that are coming to the state, but they understand our economic situation, and that's why it's really important for us as we engage and partner with them that they understand it. And they've been a wonderful partner in that sense. So again, I appreciate all of you folks and for the airport and for NEC of making this happen.
All right, thank you, Eddie. We can take any questions at this point if you have them. And keep in mind, some of the technical aspect and the demonstration can also be answered when the flight comes in and when we're actually doing that work there. But if you have any questions, feel free.
Tim, there have been some concerns brought up, I guess, by the ACLU, privacy concerns and the concerns that we're going to be following today. But how does the DOT is able to address those concerns that have been brought up earlier about having the thermal scanners?
Absolutely, and I'll start with that question. If Jason wants to fill in as well, certainly he's welcome to. But we realize that privacy is a concern, and no one's civil liberties are going to be broken. In this case, what happens is that when the passengers come in, their temperature will be taken and detected, I should say. Only those with a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher will have their picture taken. And that's only to help pull them aside and to be able to conduct that further evaluation. Now that picture itself will not be shared with anyone outside of the State Department of Transportation. And it's only going to be kept on record for 30 minutes, and then it will be purged and deleted. That said too, the picture itself will not identify that person. So even if a person is coming in and they do set off the alert because they have an elevated temperature, it won't know that person's name, won't know their address, where they live, certainly not something like their social security number, and not if they have a warrant out for their arrest or any criminal activity. None of that will be known. It's simply to be able to identify that person and then pull them aside for that further evaluation in an effort to help keep the community safe and potentially help prevent the spread of this disease. I should say that the facial imaging technology that you're also referring to is not set up yet. That's actually part of phase 3, which will be done by the end of this calendar year. But right now the thermal temperature scanning is done, but the facial imaging technology is still yet to be installed. Mm-hmm. Jason, did you want to say anything else on that aspect?
No, that was well said.
Mm-hmm. You're good.
I'm aware of the privacy issues, and I'm obviously, like everyone else, is concerned about the privacy issues, but I would be more concerned about this virus getting into the community because of a visitor. How is this system now, or maybe in the future, or even able to interact with any type of tracking and tracing system? I know in other jurisdictions, these systems are in place now, working, apparently they're working fine with being connected to such similar devices in hotels, in shops, and even without knowing a person's name can track the whereabouts of a person, because a person now here with not detected with fever may have a fever by the time they get to a hotel. How is this all interacting, or is it not interacting, and will it be interacting maybe if privacy laws would be changed or in the future?
Well, in this case situation with this technology, people should not think the technology like they may have seen in a spy movie. It's nothing like that. Again, it's not going to identify the person and won't even know their name. What will happen though is if someone does have an elevated temperature, they will be pulled aside so that airport representatives and the airport paramedics on staff on site at the airport can do a further evaluation. That is when the person's name would be collected by that person in case, and they will be given the opportunity to take a COVID-19 test. Now, they will collect the information from that person at that point, just in case for that future contact tracing, to be able to get a hold of them should that test result come back positive. And then they'll need to, the Department of Health and the other state authorities will be involved in order to do that contact tracing and help prevent the spread throughout the community if there is. Great.
Yeah, Ken, can you talk about what is the process after if somebody is flagged with a temperature? What happens to the person if they're with a group of people? Where do they go? What happens after that?
Sure. So fortunately, the overwhelming majority of the passengers that have been coming into the airport since this pandemic began do not have an elevated temperature. But for those that do, they will be pulled aside and the airport paramedics that are on site or the airport firefighters that are on site will come and conduct a further evaluation. They'll confirm that if in fact the person does have that high temperature or the 100.4 degrees or higher, and then that's when they'll take them to the side in a separate area, a separate room that's in a private area, following all the CDC guidelines, and then be able to offer them that COVID test and then be able to do that kind of further medical evaluation. If the fever is bad enough and the person is symptomatic, they will also be given the opportunity to be taken to the nearest hospital via ambulance as well, if they choose and if the symptoms warrant.
The family that they're with, if they're with other people, would they be taken somewhere too, or how does that work?
Their immediate family would. If they were, let's just say, in a group of 30 people or something, then the entire group would not at that point. But all their information would be collected, and if they're in an immediate family, then the immediate family would stay together.
And then Tim, if somebody did end up testing positive who had been flagged for secondary screening, would that entire flight be notified that they're potentially at risk of having contracted? How would that process work?
So the Department of Health is definitely involved in that process if it got to that. And then they would follow their protocols for the contact tracing and notifying anybody that they feel needs to be. In a lot of cases, and we can confirm with the Department of Health, but they talk to the people that were sitting around that person in that seat and things. But that is when the experts and authorities with the Department of Health would step in and work on all that contact tracing.
I think for Mr. Van Cise, how many other airports or has this sort of system been installed at, and how regularly?
This is actually the first airport where we're doing this installation.
But they have work in countries all over.
Yeah, that's correct. We've used this type of technology, as Tim mentioned, all over the world, in different sectors, if you will. We have a couple other installations in the U.S. with some other customers, which is similar in nature. Want to bring automation as
all
well as
unattended
safety
items
and
and
security
baggage
of
will
that
be
automation at the
confiscated
same time.
and destroyed.
Can you talk about how many you guys have, how many places will have these, and the cost of these things?
Sure. So the installation of the cameras and equipment is at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, Lihue Airport, Kahului Airport, the Kona, Elisanoni-Zuka Kona International Airport at Keohole, and Hilo International Airport. So those 5 airports currently have this equipment installed at all the gates that have the Trans-Pacific flights arriving. By August 20th is the schedule for the remaining gates at those 5 airports will have the cameras and equipment installed. And then by December 31st, or by the end of the year, that's when phase 3 will be complete, and the facial imaging technology will also be installed.
May I have your attention, please?
The cost.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommend social distancing to stop the spread of germs.
This is one of our health and community announcements that rotates.
For gathering in any area of the airport. Thank you.
So the cost of the project is $23 million for the installation equipment at all 5 of the airports statewide. In addition, it's a $1.4 million a year maintenance contract for the next 10 years. So the total contract is worth $37 million. We do appreciate the federal government and the state government for appropriating $70 million to the Department of Transportation, which is where this money will be coming from to pay for this equipment. And so It is greatly appreciated to have those funds, resources, and support from the federal and state governments providing this money.
Tim, do you envision having to add systems or add gates with this system as travel resumes and builds back up and moves towards a more normal level that we would have seen previously?
Well, clearly this is an ever-evolving situation, and this pandemic, the way it's playing out, things are going to have to change and adjust. And so the Department of Transportation, NEC, and its partners will all be ready to adjust and adapt as necessary. Right now we're working on the plans and the designs we have, but should there be additional equipment that needs to be installed, then it's something that we can always look at and adjust as needed.
And do you know off the top of your head how many gates have, specifically you said how many airports have it, but how many gates have the system?
Well, at the moment there are 36 cameras statewide at the 5 different airports that already are installed with that equipment. And then maybe I could give Bill for the total number. It's 100.
Would be 134 when it's all said and done,
Yeah.
which includes some TSA checkpoints.
Right. So yeah, 134 cameras and equipment statewide in total once it's all done.
So Tim, you mentioned that you got a 10-year maintenance plan. Are you planning to have this long-term, even past the pandemic?
Yeah, so that's the plan. I mean, to have this, it is part of the new normal, and one of those new tools that is being implemented at the state and at DOT airports. So yes, it is planning to be for the next 10 years at least. With that being said, yeah, maintenance.
And how will the facial imaging technology, how will data from that be used?
Well, so what will happen now is that prior to that equipment being here, the screeners are actually at the gate. So if someone does ping or set off the alert that they have an elevated temperature, they'll be pulled aside right then and there. Once the facial imaging technology is involved, we'll have representatives watching in a control room with the monitors per se, watching several gates at a time if necessary, if there's multiple gates coming in simultaneously. And so that person who's monitoring the control room and the monitors, if someone does set off the alert, then they will be able to alert the representatives that are at the end of the corridor. Let's say it'll depend on the various airport, but they'll be able to communicate with another representative who will tell them which person set off the alert and needs to be pulled aside. And so there'll be that communication between the control room and the people on the ground throughout the terminal.
So then until the facial recognition is installed, you'll just have somebody standing there at the control station and they'll grab whoever triggers it.
Correct, and at the moment, it is members of the Hawaii National Guard that are monitoring these, and it's a good opportunity to send out a big mahalo to the National Guard members who have been helping out. They have been the ones who are at the gate. Every time a flight comes in, handheld, one at a time, they'll stop, they'll do the temperature check, and then you go. Now that this is involved, people can exit the jet bridge without stopping and continue on. So it's a more efficient manner of deplaning and exiting the plane. But we certainly thank the Hawaii National Guard for that help. I will say that they are also helping out with the processing of the inter-island passengers, and they are completely professional and have been very patient. And I will throw out some kudos to all of their members as well for doing such a great job, especially during this pandemic.
How does it screen? Does it screen it can screen 20 people all in one shot and then just pick out somebody whose temperature is
The governor of the state of Hawaii
Bill or Jason, do you
proclaimed
want
a
to take
state
that?
of emergency in response to
I may want to wait till this goes, but yeah, you can
COVID-19
go.
as part of the effort to contain the spread of
This is one of our other
COVID-19.
COVID messages.
The governor has ordered all arriving international and continental U.S. travelers to self-quarantine. All international and continental U.S. travelers are required to stay home or in their hotel room for 14 days after arrival and monitor their health.
Okay. So in regards to how the thermal cameras detect a person's temperature when they're deplaning coming out of the jet bridge.
Step closer to the mic. please.
Sorry. So the airlines have been good partners with the state of Hawaii, Departments of Transportation, along with the Air National Guard. folks as well to help make sure that social distancing practices as passengers deplane are enforced, which helps to ensure that everyone coming off the jet bridge can be seen by the camera. The camera can't see them, we can't detect their thermal temperature. Sometimes you know, the National Guard is watching to make sure that everybody is detected, and if someone is missed for some reason, maybe they're in baby carrier, then they will take them aside and do the manual temperature check.